So the first speaker of today, I cannot imagine how she will be able to cover this topic in half an hour because she has webinars of more than 2 hours long. But anyway, we are beginning with Post-Captivity Recovery 2014 through 2024 Experience, Challenges and Prospects. Deputy Director of the State Institution, the Sava Polana Mental Health and Rehabilitation Center, the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, Ms. Tatiana Sirenko. The floor is yours. Friends, this is not just Tatiana Sirenko coming up on the stage, I have to say it. She's very modest, she will never say so about herself, but I have known her since 2014, and I'm greatly proud that I know this beautiful lady, this beautiful girl, because Ukraine has an extremely great number of psychologists, trauma specialists, psychotherapists, but I don't know a single specialist in Ukraine who, in such a systemic way, starting with the late 2014, every day, sometimes at weekends, would cooperate with doctors, NGOs, human rights advocates, psychologists, psychiatrists. She has been working all of this time on this topic. She is a professional on torches. This is what we refer to her. And the number of different training sessions that she has already delivered. Sometimes she says about that, and she says, I wake up in the middle of the night and I think that I can talk and talk about such people. There is a great deal of unique experience contained in her beautiful head. I cannot put myself to a stop, so again, the floor goes to Tatiana. Hello and welcome, everyone. For me, indeed, this is such a matter of pride that we have organized this conference, and my pathway in this conference started in 2015. Just like for many other people working in this topic, in this terrain, I had to begin in a particular topic. A very close person to me was taken prisoner, and just in 2014. And I know a lot of specialists who had to work on that, and we had to dig deeper into what needs to be done with such experiences, because there were very few resources available. We had to cover a long way, and basically this became my main qualification.
Вчитись насправді. І не тільки фахово, як психотерапевтці. Ця тема насправді для мене відкрила зовсім незнайому для мене сторону життя. Вона відкрила для мене дуже глибокий світ тортур і насильства насправді, а це цілий світ.
This topic opened up a whole world to me. It's a whole system with the institutions that develop these experiences with a great number of different
system
skills,
which is developed elsewhere in the world as well, with its own approaches. We call this conference We've Got Experience, because this is our experience. Something is not working for me here. So, the experience. 10 years of war in Ukraine, in the Ukrainian society. We do have experience. We are here. We are alive. The people who survived captivity definitely have this experience. Those who had to wait for their loved ones to come back, they do have experience of how to wait and what to do once they are back. Those who will never get their loved ones from the experience still have experience, the experience of negotiating, of liberating or not liberating from captivity. International community also has a lot of experience. Even the people from very safe, very prosperous countries. The specialists who help Ukraine have a lot of experience, so there is a lot of experience. And it is really sad that in such circumstances, with so much pain, our specialists have so much experience that they can teach the rest of the world. In each of these categories that you see, some of the experience is successful, some is not. There is also something I never mentioned, something which is new, which came in 2022. It's the people who came from captivity, bounced back, and went back to defend the country. There is experience of the families who had these people come back from captivity, go back to fight, and die. Because, and this is something we need to remember, because this speaks for the strength that such people have. A bit of history, where we started with this experience. In 2014, it was so very different with captivity, with torture. We did not understand the status. We didn't understand how we should call the people who were kept, because very often they were captured by militants. We were not at war officially. There was a large number of civilians who were kept for pro-Ukrainian activity. And those people suffered no less than the military. We had situations when civilians were captured just to get some ransom or property. Those people were tortured as well. They are also victims. There was some ad hoc exchanges, groups for negotiations. It did have some positive effect, but that was very close to human trade, honestly. And the topic is so difficult because when somebody is kept, is taken into captivity, the family, the friends will do everything, legal or illegal, to have their loved one free. And we cannot really judge them. A lot of people did that. We still can say that it's a very difficult thing for the people, for the society. And they're very vulnerable. People who are waiting for their loved ones to come back are very vulnerable. You can put pressure on them very quickly and very easily. And it was difficult to find support. I'm telling you that just that you would understand that there was no system of support. From Konstantinivka, I brought a civilian in 2014. That person survived 9 months of captivity. He could flee. There were several months after that. He received no services. He didn't go anywhere for help. I learned about him. I went to this place of Konstantinivka. I just brought him to Kiev by train. I went to a hospital in Kiev where I knew the chief, the dean of medicine. This is not Ksenia, though, and we treated him there. I'm saying that because I saw that these doctors, they had a lot of anxiety. They would call me at night and say, you know, he went to the balcony. Are you sure he's not going to do something to himself? Or they would ask me, Tatiana, where did you go with him? Are you safe? Because people were afraid that somebody who came back from captivity is normal, that you can come back and still be a normal person. This is a myth, and I saw it hundreds of times in my own practice. We didn't have specialists enough. We had no one to learn from. I don't know English very well to communicate directly or to read from English sources, but I had to look for the literature and somehow learn from there, or look for colleagues who were trying to learn too, because we had very few specialists in Ukraine, psychotherapists who knew how to work with such topic. There was no reading, no information. The civilians, after they come back, could only get help from NGOs. And we didn't have a lot of the services that they could get. Now there is quite a selection. Take all you can or anything you can. Then it was done by the people who had something personal in this. I mention it all right now because I remember how bad those people felt. It was so difficult to come to them for help. They never came to us. We had to go to them, to Konstantinivka, to Avdiivka, other places. We had to look for safe contacts and help. The services that they received, they were not on time. By the time we would learn about these people, a lot of time would pass. A lot of people would be lost. Today, colleagues will talk about what's happening in the territories that are deoccupied. It's so important that we do not repeat those mistakes. I already know from my people that we're losing people in the Kharkiv territories, Kherson region. People commit suicides because they do not help. And this is the gap we have to bridge. We had to do it yesterday or the day before yesterday. So some of the statistics until 2022, it is very relative. I will speak about that honestly, because statistics in general, when we talk about people who suffered from torture in Ukraine, related to war crimes, is incomplete. We have occupied territories. We have a lot of people who never came for help. We know more about those who were exchanged officially or those who did come to get some services. So from some open sources, from interviews, I could collect this data. It's about 3,500 people were liberated. About 300 were still officially in captivity, and 300 were missing. A lot was done before 2022, a lot of specialists who knew what to do. Not enough, but then how can you have enough of them during the war? You just can't. We have to face a lot. We see lack of communication between state and civil segments, services. I see here people from both sides, and I really ask you to communicate. Our task is to support people, first of all, it is. What we can't have is a conflict between a person and a state, because very often people who survived captivity and torture are very hurt by the state. This is natural, because they suffered what they did because a war came to Ukraine and the people were not properly defended. So they will have that to the state. And it is so important that they get support and services from the state, because then they will feel that the state is accountable, it is responsible. And this is my message. Very often, the civil society provides a lot of high-quality help, and the specialists have good funding, have good opportunity, good support, which is way better than what you find in the state institutions. But the connection with the state institutions is very important, because it is about long-term projects, it's about security. The state is not dependent on international donors. And this is something that we also need to take care of. And it is about the security for people who come back. When I understood it, I went to work for a public institution because I want to develop high-quality services provided by the state. There is no comprehensive program for the civilians. It is still absent. We're trying to develop it. There are some services, there is more support than there used to be, and we see it does influence people. We do not have enough specialists trained. I'm not only talking about psychologists. We need to train doctors, because lots of people survived captivity and torture. They will have to go to doctors because they need medical assistance. The body of people who survived sexual violence, torture, captivity, the body itself will have a lot of trauma in it. It may be difficult for such people to come to doctors, to get treatment, explain what happened, what hurts. And you have to be really highly qualified as a doctor in your sphere. But if you don't build communication, if you do not establish this first contact, the people will not come back. They will not receive the services. Of course, you can say that these are the problems of those people and of them only, but no, it's our pain of the whole society because it influences the whole of the society. We can mention here law enforcement as well. They're specialists from social services and generally the society. I see there is a lot of requests coming from the society. Journalists talk about it. People want to know what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And this is right, because we need to build a kind of society which will be containing such experiences. We do have some positive changes. As a specialist who started working with this in 2015, I know how much has been done, how much the state has done, and that makes me so happy. When I hear people saying that we have nothing, I just smile because I know how much we have covered, and I know what having nothing was. Now the situations are way better. Of course, there is something that can be done because Ukrainians have to come back from the occupied territories, captivity, and there will be more people coming back, and we need to grow. We need to standardize the procedures of looking for prisoners of war, liberating them. It's very important for the family, because when something like that happened, they're in crisis, they are disoriented, and they need to understand where they can turn to do something. Because otherwise they start knocking on all of the doors and they lose resources. There is chaos. It can hurt the process of liberation. We get more qualified specialists, and that makes me so happy. This is great. Of course, reintegration processes and programs really changed adaptation of people after captivity. Money support from the state, that's important, because people who come back from captivity, they are exhausted, they don't have resources, they do not have salaries. Civilians who are captured, like very often happens in the occupied territories, and when they come back from captivity, their homes are still in the occupied territories. So apart from being somebody who returned from captivity, you're also a displaced person. Well, I'm trying to be nice here, because I would really use some other language, but we are online, right? We are on air. Now, these 2 years were really scaled up. We were talking about 7, 8 years of war, but here in 2 years of war, we had thousands of people liberated, a lot of people still in captivity. More than 26,000 of those missing. And this is a lot of burden, that emotional burden that family members have, and that does influence the society. We need to be ready to work with it. People who suffered from captivity, sexual violence, torture on occupied territories. Very often, it's not necessarily captivity, but people are tortured. We find a lot of torture chambers in deoccupied territories, places where people were tortured. And of course, this is something that we will have to deal with as well. But we don't know how many we have not yet found and documented. And I'm absolutely sure, and this is my experience speaking, that the more people can get access to services, psychological, medical, the closer it is to the places where they live, the more facts we will be able to document. Not all people know, want, will do something, will give testimony. Some even cannot give any testimony before they get any services. And here we have to bring everyone, all of the agencies doing that in the loop. Why is it important for us to document crimes? Russians do it because they can. Everything, well, a lot of things went unpunished for them in other wars, and they think they can. And we need to talk about it. We need to do something to counter that. For me, people who suffered from torture and sexual violence that are related to war, they are victims, not only survivors. They are people who saw what was done, and this is very, very important, what they witnessed. We do not have to force them to give testimony, but as long as they remember, as long as they have this information, it's a resource. We need to take care of these people and do everything we can to make sure that they can bounce back and function properly. Good. So, new challenges that we are facing after 2022. A lot of people who suffered, and scaling up our experience was needed because the number of services that need to be provided is growing fast. Our healthcare institutions are overworked. It's because of the war, because of the military personnel coming to them, doctors, medics are overworked, and we need to understand how much time they have and how much resources. And it's good that the Ministry of Health define some of the institutions who will provide services, and that should really bring about better services. Now we understand where people should be sent, and then we will have teams of people who will do good services.
The lack of professionals, it's not only our problem. Of course, we can comment. How about that? On the other hand, we can optimize all of these processes. For a long time, the format of our work has been just online. And I'm not only talking about our institution, but generally speaking, a great number of specialists were based somewhere safe. They couldn't go to their offices. Some of the people were based in the Lviv region in the west of Ukraine, whereas a lot of assistance and support had to be provided in the center of Ukraine, in Kiev. Our online work is also very, very needed because, you see, people do not trust. They are so incredulous. And if this is online, there are also additional warnings, caveats. And when we work with such people online, a significant number of those people who would draw on such services, unfortunately, are reluctant to take these services. Also, professionals are terribly stressed. If we talk about conflict-related sexual violence and tortures, it's something that definitely impacts professionals, no matter what area of professionalism we represent, because Ukrainians are tortured just because they are Ukrainians. And each Ukrainian will definitely respond to that. That requires a great number of professionals, their support, their resources. So this is greatly impactful on the life of the whole society. Also, when talking about new challenges, it's the lengthy stay in the captivity, where after people have been released from captivity after a long time, they say that it affects them very, very badly. There is lack of safe environment, even when people are discharged from captivity. When they come back, they require necessary support, dignity, the spaces that would cater to that. But it's extremely difficult to create that in the war when we cannot ensure stability even for civilians. When missiles fly everywhere, it's impossible to say, go to this region and there you will feel safe. All of the security and safety is very, very fragile. We feel insecure, and it's difficult to impart the security in those affected. These are the people of extreme power. They have been through a lot, but we cannot create secure enough conditions for them, because for them, their nervous system can also respond to this safe space as a threat. So this is a lot of artisan work, something that cannot be drawn up by protocols. There are some protocols and we always focus on them, but we have to improvise at all times and find some spontaneous out-of-the-box solutions and decisions. Civilians, of course, service delivery for civilians is getting improved. Another problem that we are experiencing right now is a great deal of burden on special services providing such psychological and mental relief. We need to keep communicating between different institutions and levels more. Lack of communication between the prosecutorial services and medical professionals, I keep hearing that from both sides, because sometimes this communication, unfortunately, is imperfect, and we are planning for that to get better. Basically, we're also talking about the necessity of the qualitative multidisciplinarian approach, because torture gets ingrained in the people's mind in terms of people's ability to communicate and to be healed after being released from captivity. Human communication and contact matters enormously, because torture is about what one human being does to another human being. So human contact matters very much. Torture, it's not only about medical science and about psychology. Our society right now does not possess a lot of healthy resources. So we have to work so as to not force people to be split even more in order to receive the necessary services. But on the contrary, we need to create this holistic support and contact, something that we are working on so much right now. And let me reiterate, do not be afraid that someone who comes back to you after captivity will be mutilated physically, psychologically, and will become a burden to the society. That's definitely not true. Because the people who have been able to go through captivity, they're so durable, they're so strong, but they still require support in order to get connected to the strength and the power available in the community, in order not to continue suffering, but in order to start recovering. Sometimes, and quite often, more often than not, these people cannot do this on their own. They require assistance. So let me share the experience of our center, Listova Padana, because we definitely have a lot to share, because we have been working with this topic not since 2022, but much more, since 2019 until now. We already have delivered assistance to 517 people released from captivity and their family members. We have provided training and graduated professionals on narrative exposition therapy. 16 specialists have been through this therapy. This is one of the most powerful, impactful psychological therapies that enables you to create this narrative. The narrative which is helpful also to provide people's testimonies, and that's something that we are planning on developing. This year we have graduated 36 specialists in EMDR, and we are planning to involve these specialists in our network of assistance provision. In the previous years, we also developed and implemented internal protocols to provide assistance for multidisciplinary teams. That's something that we can also share with you if you work in medical institutions and if you require those protocols. We have been learning a lot. We have been picking up experiences from different countries, from different counterparts and colleagues. So our multidisciplinary team, which has been trained to work with the people affected, we have also a team of doctors trained on the basis of the Istanbul protocols. They know how to document testimonies because the demand for that is growing. And overall, the whole team has the necessary skills and has been trained concerning the specialities of effective communication, especially when we deal with people who have been through captivity and torture, in order to ensure that this rehabilitation takes place in a successful way. Because when these people land in caretaking institutions, it's very difficult for them to set contacts, make contacts, because they're afraid of others that can scare them, and these people can climb up. But our experiences are successful and we are ready to spread, and we can see that working in practice. This year we have trained 125 psychologists. We conducted 3 training courses with the support of PACT in partnership with the Bluebird NGO, and perhaps some of our colleagues will be sharing more about that, but we have developed a training course which accumulates the experience of our institution plus the Bluebird. It's a 5-day intensive crash course, and a lot of specialists are working already based on that. We have also conducted a great number of training sessions, webinars for doctors, state emergency service, the center especially established for the prosecutors. We have trained more than 1,000 prosecutors, and we also have some rigorous serious plans for the next year in this regard. And this year, our center was identified, designated as the main center for the civilians and their family members and the military servicemen released from prison, from imprisonment and captivity in the Russian Federation and the occupied territories. We have also developed methodological materials. They're readily downloadable, and nearly all of them are in public domain. There is this textbook or manual meant for trainers. We developed that targeting next year's plans for training trainers. We also have a manual for the specialists in the medical area and for a wide circle of professionals where you can get familiarized with the specialty of how to deal with people who have been through torture and captivity. Also, let me share about our plans for the next year. For this year, in the first place, we would like to set up an online platform to create this referral system at the all-national level to combine public sector, prosecutorial bodies, government institutions, medical institutions. So this will be a two-way traffic meant for both the professionals and the affected population, so that the people can reach out to this platform and find the necessary services meant for them. We are also planning to create a network of medical caretaking institutions and doctors, especially targeting this population, and here we're greatly helped by the Ministry of Health. We're also planning the training for trainers with the support of our partners. We'll also be developing a distance course for the doctors, which will be also posted on the site of the National Academy of Health. And we are planning for a pilot project to document effects and consequences of tortures based on Istanbul protocols to train different types of specialists. And we have also started a new project, which is called the Free Choice. And after this conference, some new training sessions will start. So we are targeting professionals in the prosecution. These will be online and offline training courses. In June, we will be preparing trainers who will be trained in order to scale up this work, and there will be the development. This will be followed up by the online course for prosecutors. So we try to combine these two areas of work. And very briefly, the people who have been through torture and captivity are the people of extreme power and will. They are living witnesses of crimes committed against humanity, committed by our enemies, and we cannot change what has happened, but we can unite, and this is the way that we can counteract all of these crimes. And in this respect, this is our most powerful and potent in fact, and it looks like in this world, it's only us who can repel the Russians, and in this respect as well. So I see that this is our great mission. And let me say one more thing. When I came to work with this topic, my life was changed 180%, and I changed myself, and for the better, I would say. Let me describe that in one stage. Seminal events became a mundane reality for me, a routine for me. This inspires me, and the people I work with also inspire me greatly. These were not just numbers or recounting people's experiences, thousands of people's experiences. From my first-hand experience, I know that everyone has an individual sea of pain and an ocean of support to handle that. But in order to wake this ocean, we have to work thoroughly. So we are inviting everyone for partnership. I beg your pardon for taking more time to speak, but I can talk endlessly about this topic. Thank you very much for your attention.